All right, up next, an exclusive conversation with renowned nutritionist and author Luke Coutinho in conversation with me. Stay tuned. We'll be back with that in just a bit. You have strongly gone ahead and said you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. And this you talk about overall integrated holistic wellness and how people should be and conduct themselves in terms of what they consume, what their diet needs to be, how their emotional and mental state also needs to be. So if you could just tell us, how would you see people take themselves through this era of lockdown and pandemic as well in terms of their overall well-being?
Absolutely. So I think for the longest time, people have chased diets and they've chased fat exercise programs, and we've realized that it's never given us sustainable results. So now, while we're at lockdown, we can really be, more cautious with the food that we're eating. A lot of people are already losing weight because they're eating home cooked food, and people can eat their meals on time. So, when we look at wellness, people constantly look at just food. They don't look at beyond food. Like, how much are you eating? What time are you eating your food at? Do you eat under stress, or are you relaxed when you eat your food? Do you chew your food, or do you eat your food too quickly? So it's not just about food. It's really about the way that we eat food. And I think that's a change that we require right now. And since a lot of people are safe at home, lockdown, this is the time to actually try to adjust your meal timings and then start adjusting your portions of your food and try to really enjoy every meal. And you will find that automatically, even a very simple diet that you maintain at home with the bare essentials is sufficient for most people.
And you said something so interesting that people are losing their weight now because they're sitting at home and they're eating home cooked meals, and which is what is keeping them healthy. But I also know of many, and I'm not proud to know that, many are even binge eating because you're sitting in a lockdown, you are Netflixing away, you're watching TV, and you're eating because you're sitting in a lockdown, you are Netflixing away, you're watching TV at odd hours, there is no regimented lifestyle of when they're waking up and going to work. So what about those people? How would you guide them? What should their diet really consist of? How should they look after themselves?
Right. And that's why I say you need to be the change that you want to see, So what we can do is through this time, yep, we're in lockdown. We have a lot more time on hand, but it doesn't mean that we can't have a planned and organized day. Now, most of our clients today are still able to watch Netflix, take it easy, do nothing, study, do their work from home, and eat well. See, we have 24 hours in a day. I always tell people minus, you don't have 24 hours, you have 16 hours, minus 8 hours, and keep it aside for your sleep. Now, what can I use my 16 hours for? Can I keep time aside for Netflix? Can I keep time aside for my family, for my meals, for my exercise? You see, when it's planned, we end up doing it. So I'm not telling people that they should sleep at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. You can sleep at maybe 11 or 12 now during the lockdown. You have more time on hand, but you should still make sure that you wake up at a particular time after you're getting your sleep in place. And you must go through your day. There should be like a timetable, because if you don't control time, if you don't put it in a box, everything goes all over the place.
So, what is the percentage breakup, Luke, that you would recommend? Because tell us what percent should be carbs, what percent should be good fat, what percent should be protein. Most people have that question. The ones who are trying to stay fit or lose weight need to know that segregation of what their consumption as well.
The segregation will depend on everyone. It will depend on their weight. It will depend on their goal. So if someone who's looking to lose a lot of weight, they will have a lower proportion of carbs. It could go down to 30%, it could go down to 20%, or you could even keep it up to 30 to 40% depending on how much they're exercising. So it's always different for everyone, but usually you would go at about 40, and then you would look at your proteins and your fats. Your fats at least 30, and your proteins about 40%. But again, today a lot of people are doing low carb diets, which are good, and they're increasing their fat and their protein to almost 40% and 40%, which is also good. So
Look, there's a
no
lot of much to do about carbs, and you will listen even in social circles. No, I'm off carbs. I don't think I want to have carbs. But aren't carbs also very important to our existence as well? I have personally noticed that, my mood goes down if I don't consume enough carbs. So, what is the percentage that a normally healthy person that needs to consume?
You can have 30% to 40% to even 45% of carbs. It is necessary. Like I said, a lot of people use it as a shortcut to lose weight. So they cut down their carbs and they try to lose weight, but then they get irritable and they have other problems. If you're cutting down your carbs, you got to increase your protein and your fat.
And what about the superfoods? These days, when you go to a grocery store as well, there are just so many superfoods. They're screaming for your attention as well. Is this a fad, or are these really helpful for the overall well-being?
So superfoods are good, but they're not necessary. We don't have to spend so much of money on superfoods. When we look at our bare essentials, we look at garlic, we look at onion, we look at amla, which is Indian gooseberry, we look at pure ghee, we look at pure coconut oil, we look at your fruits, we look at your vegetables, your almonds, your walnuts, your cashew nuts. These are superfoods. When we look at Indian food like chutney, we look at khichdi, we look at rasam, sambar, the Indian curry. These are all superfoods because they're mixed with different spices and ingredients that make it superfoods. Moringa as well is a superfood that is abundantly available in our country.
But you know, the content and the ingredient of what we're putting in also becomes very important. With a lot of adulteration that we're seeing in the market as well, there's a new range of organic products that are available, which costs a little more. But would you advise that one needs to go for organic, or is it not something that is essential?
Absolutely. It's always better to have pure organic because, you do away with all the pesticides, which can cause severe diseases in the body. But I usually recommend that people tie up with local farmers in their areas. If you start supporting the farmers start growing more food for you.
That's right.
People use pesticides when there's a much larger yield involved.
And you know, along with eating right and looking after our physical well-being, emotional well-being and mental well-being is also extremely important. How would you guide our viewers on that front?
Absolutely. Emotional wellness is everything. If you have poor emotional wellness, you make the wrong food choices. You choose to skip your workout. You can't sleep at night because you're emotionally low. And then everything suffers, your career, your relationships, your health. Emotional wellness is number one.
Many a times, because there is not much physical activity or mental activity, you're not feeling that tired. And I've heard many people complain that they are unable to sleep on time or maybe complete their 8 hours like the textbook really says. What, according to you, should a sleep pattern be like? At what times does one need to go to sleep to get the best kind of sleep possible? And how many hours minimum and maximum?
So usually 7 to 8 hours of sleep is good enough. But the question you need to ask yourself is when you wake up, do you feel rested? If you feel rested, that means you got sufficient sleep. If you still feel tired, you need caffeine to start your day, that means you're sleep deprived. Now, we follow a circadian rhythm. So obviously, the earlier the better. If you try to sleep 2 hours before midnight, that's a beautiful cycle. But some people, I understand, they're sleeping late, watching Netflix. So even if you sleep at midnight or 1 o'clock, which is not really recommended, but if you have to, at least still try to get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep and wake up feeling rested. Number two, again, like I said, the people who complain about these things are the people who need to change their lifestyles. You can still work out at home. Everyone's working out at home. So you can still get physically tired in order to fall asleep at the right time.
Coming back a little to diet and medicine as well, you are somebody who practices integrative medicine. We want to know more about what that is. On top of that as well, Ayurveda says you are what you eat, and most medicines that you require are already available in your kitchen. Do you believe in that?
Absolutely. Integrative medicine is very simple. Integrative medicine has the patient in the middle and you address the root cause of it. So it also includes allopathy, like in our team, we have a medical vertical, we have everything. But the patient's in the middle. When he needs medicine, our team manages the side effect of that medicine and works with the doctor to slowly get him off the medication completely by addressing the root cause. So if someone constantly gets a headache, you can constantly take pills. But at some point, we want to know what is causing the headache so you can fix it and stop the headache. Is it constipation? Is it lack of sleep? Is it a poor diet? So integrative medicine looks at everything you need to do to address the root cause of the person's condition or the disease. And as you rightly said, you are what you eat. It's as simple as that. And yes, we can use food as medicine. That doesn't mean, it can be a replacement for allopathy when you really need it. Because you need to look at the quality of the food. You need to look at the ability of the person to absorb the food that they're eating. Most people have gut issues and they don't even absorb most of the nutrients from the food that they eat. So yes, food is a powerful medicine. It should be used the right way. But if you are given an allopathic drug by your doctor for a treatment and you need to be on it for a while, you can't really use a food to replace it until the symptom gets better. And that's why integrative medicine works really well.
And what about people like us, journalists, who work at random hours, the policemen, the healthcare workers, the doctors who are called for duty even in the middle of the in the night as well? How would you recommend they look after themselves as well? Because I'm sure there are many who are watching who have this question on their minds, including me.
Right, absolutely. All the more,
Yes.
people who, like us, who work different shifts and timings, we need to take care of our health all the more by investing in our lifestyle. So we may have a night shift, but we still must get our sleep during the day. All the more reason because of our changing shifts and eating at different timings, our immune systems can be lower, which means the meals that we eat should be highly nutritious so that we can maintain our immune systems. And because all these jobs that you mentioned come with a lot of stress, you have to have outlets. So whether it's meditation, whether it's exercise, whether it's your spiritual path, you have to have these mechanisms in. Otherwise, people in these jobs will crumble under pressure or will crumble and fall because of low immunity.
How you picked on the fact that refined foods should be avoided. Is this applicable to people all across the board? Because whether it is the oil that we're consuming, whether it is the salt that we're consuming, whether it is the sugar, whether it is the cereal that we eat in the morning as well, all of it seems to be refined. Even the atta that you use to make the roti is refined atta. So how would you tell people to make those changes, and what does one do?
So it's simple, it's very difficult for a lot of people to get refined completely out of their diet. A lot of people can, but to be practical, a lot of people can't. But then at least that's where your fruits, your vegetables, the foods that nature gives you in whole should be primarily 60 to 70% of your diet. And today refined is no longer an excuse for most people. We need to understand that is a whole food lobby kind of a thing. We have to understand that India lived on wood pressed oils. People would take coconuts or mustard seeds to the mill and get oil pressed, and they would cook in that. And then the markets opened and it was all replaced with refined oils. Coconut oil, pure ghee was replaced with all of the refined oils that have every connection with cardiovascular disease today. We used to use jaggery in our country. Jaggery was used as a sweetener. It got replaced with white sugar. You see, refined flour didn't exist. People used whole wheat, or they used bajra or jowar, or they used rice flour, which is wholesome. It's not refined. So these things still exist in our country. It's just a personal choice to make to go back to that. And if they do that, their health is going to change because most people are eating too much of ultra processed refined foods.